This is Edward Teach, dude. Local brewer. They're great. I like them.
That peach wheat.
Yeah, they got several different flavors out, but I like them. It's a nice change of pace.
Proud of you. So what kind of decision making are we talking about tonight?
I don't think we should put it in a shoebox.
Yeah.
I believe that it all kind of plays together and plays a part anyway. I mean, how we make decisions on the fireground can only help but reflect in everyday life, I would imagine, right? And vice versa.
Yeah.
The decisions you make, whether to yell at your kids or not yell at your kids, are the same if you choose to yell at your coworkers or not.
Yeah.
Figure some of the same principles apply. Does the process for making a decision for you? Do you want to get specific for a minute?
Let's do
I think it'll
man.
maybe for ease of conversation. Do you want to talk fireground specific first? Or?
Okay.
All right. So we'll talk fireground specific first. So on the fireground, when it comes to you making a decision, what do you base that off of? What is your mode of validation?
What my eyeballs are telling me,
Sure.
combined with experiences and training. I see training slightly different than I think most. Like academy life and the classes and stuff give you this base of knowledge, but I never applied directly what I learned in class on a fire scene. Like there's so many variables
Right.
that I think you would get stuck if you were trying to make something fit into this exact category. So it's the surroundings. It's a lot of stuff to think about.
Sure. I don't disagree. I think experience definitely plays a big part in it.
I read that comment that White put up.
Yes.
Gosh, how did he word it? It was the I've seen this. Yeah, so you're presented with something, and then your brain's like, well, I've seen this before, and this worked out. That's a big part of it. A time on scenes when you're watching other people, like in your earlier years, watching other decisions, and you either agreed with it or you didn't. Agreeing or not agreeing is not respecting or disrespecting. Now, if you disagree and you do something against what they're asking, then disrespect comes into play. But people make decisions all the time that I don't agree with, and then it turns out working out all right. It's like,
Okay.
yeah, I just learned something.
Well, I was just about to say that's a chance to learn. With the going off of past experiences, has there ever been a situation or a time where you have made a decision to choose plan A and it worked, and you used the same plan at a different scene, kind of the same situation, but it was just default because the circumstances kind of presented themselves the same, so you chose to go with plan A again based off past experience, and it didn't work?
If I had known you were going to ask that question, I might would have thought about it a little while. I'm thinking of car wrecks.
Yes, absolutely. That's a good one.
I remember we had a car overturned in a ditch, and the lady was stable. Like she wasn't awfully hurt, broken arm, clearly. And the way the car was inverted, her arm was out and pinned by the A-pillar and the roof rail. So it presented some challenges, and normally just throw some rescue jacks on it and lift it up. Plenty of options, right?
Sure.
But this thing's overturned in a ditch, and the benefit of that one, we had a tow truck that just happened to witness the whole thing and pulled into a perfect spot. So we were able to use him to lift and crib as we went, but we got her out that way. But that wasn't my first. Like I didn't pull up, see the tow truck, and think, oh, I'm going to use that.
Little rescue tracks in the truck, boys.
Right. Yeah, that one, it went good, and it was an example of having a plan A and then being presented with another option, and it was okay. I try to keep that open mindset. Like, I'm going to come up with plans. I like coming up with plans.
Sure.
But if I hear one or am presented with a speed bump in my plan, then I'm not married to that plan. My pride's not attached to that. The person in the car or the situation needs the best outcome. So I don't have to have, plan A worked,
So you're the type that is fine with kind of decentralized command or taking suggestions when it comes to on-scene work and stuff like that. You prefer the team model versus this is what we're going to do.
Yes. I will say, though, if there's too many team ideas going out, then they just wash out, and I just stick with mine.
Sure. Cool. About large-scale incidences. How would you go about it, maybe? Just with past experiences in your brain, just something that was a larger scale incident. At what point do you pass these decision-making processes on to somebody else?
As soon as there's trust. So anything past a single residential structure fire gets into that, like complex. Chief Hogue hit me one time with it was an insult at the time, and he was just trying to get me to think. But he was like, "You're one of those residential structure fire kind of guys."
Right.
You
I
think
think I've heard this story.
Yeah,
I'd love to hear it again.
You get presented with a problem, and you feel like A, B, C, knock it out, you're done, let's go home. And it was an ag rescue class.
Right.
And he was trying to get me to get away from that mentality, dealing with a complex ag rescue situation. So it did get me to think a little more. Like, there are times when you just get down and get dirty, get whatever job done, and it's time to move on. But then there's other times where it's more complex, and you got to find somebody you can trust to delegate. You handle this, and you handle this.
I guess luckily for us, the system's kind of put in place to where that already kind of happens. When your next higher ranking officer gets there, they're assuming those positions already, whether you want them to or not. They're going to take it.
Yeah.
That's just part of their job description. Mm-hmm. To me, that's where the trust thing plays a big part, because they're now managing your scene, your people, and you. For the most part, they're now in charge of you.
That's where it's so important to build the trust way before the fire scene. So trust is built so many different ways. Establishing a good relationship with somebody, even pleasantries, like, how you doing? Other than just to walk by somebody without speaking, those little interactions that you can either capitalize on or ignore, you end up on a fire scene with that person later. You remember when they snubbed you or said something wrong, or if they were polite for no reason. Like, I don't know why that should translate into trust, but it does for me.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off that one for a second, but especially for a younger promoted person, maybe fire service years, maybe age, whatever, a younger promoted person over top of people who have been in the career for longer or have been on the earth for more years, that plays a part. Those little interactions. Otherwise you'll just be the little, you'll be the little shit officer that's, surpassing everybody. You're book smart more than anything else. Mm-hmm. So great point about the tiny interactions and all that good type of stuff. I like it. Mm-hmm. I guess my process, definitely comes off of experiences in the past. Luckily for me, as far as the fire ground goes, my decisions are kind of limited. For the most part, on my truck and my specific rig, we kind of devise a plan together, I would say. But I'm leaned on heavily on my particular shift just because of the time in on that particular apparatus.
Sure.
So I'm leaned on heavily. So I have to make decisions. A little bit of that comes from past experiences. A little bit comes from the books of what I'm supposed to do. I'm just thinking about like first on scene, apparatus placement, stuff like that. You learn that in class, where you're supposed to position your truck. Now, obviously, scene dictates a little bit, but the meat and potatoes of the message still applies. Mm-hmm. And I get on the guys on the engine about that too. Leave room for the truck. Get out of my way.
Yeah.
So it's a thing. Or don't pull up directly behind me because my ladders come out the back. My ground ladders come out the back. So
or right beside you because your outriggers.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. hopefully by the time we're there, for the most part, we kind of got a general idea if it's going to be a aerial type operation or if we're just going to be banging ladders. So hopefully that's done by then. But I've been on scenes where it's not, and then you have to reposition.
Yeah, that building relationships thing. In my previous assignment, I had the driver on the engine, and I talked all the time about everything from trees in the yard, power line, like the service drop coming down one side versus the other. We were looking at everything, and it wasn't just give the numbers to the truck, which is a great default.
Right.
But it might be this corner or that corner based on wind or anything, trees, whatever. Sure. That relationship, it all happens. It all gets built before.
Think about that. What that does for decisions to be made on scene. You're already kind of pre-planning some of these things, so you're taking some of those out. It's just a quick eyeball because you have a default. You've seen it, you've kind of planned. So if the wind's blowing from the east, cool, we're going this way. We're just going to U-turn and pull up to the other side. Same corners, just facing a little different.
Yeah.
So you've kind of aided yourself in this decision-making process because you're eliminating things. I guess the second and most probably biggest thing for me on making decisions on the fireground is risk versus reward.
Sure.
I'll risk a lot to save a lot, but I mean, I'm sure I've been told time and time again that I'll risk a little to save, or the other way around,
right.
Risk a lot to save little. But that's just my aggressive nature. To me, it's not worth it. Some choices are not ours to make, for sure, but then some are. The little ones, the risk versus reward, whether it be parking on top of somebody or whether we should put a second ladder on the Delta side or Charlie side for second means of egress. These are all little tiny decisions that could pay off. If the hole can be cut in the time that it takes to go back to the reg and get another ladder, carry it around to the other side, set it up just to watch them get off the roof or had already been done.
Right.
What's the...
But if it was needed.
Yep. That's right. It's there.
That risk a lot, save a lot, risk a little, save a little. The only place that rubs that it doesn't really jive for me is, so confirmed the place has been searched, nobody's inside, and the decision is going to be made to transition to defensive for whatever reason, right? Or maybe it's prematurely being moved to defensive in this thought process, this thing I'm trying to explain to you. So if a fire condition is in that phase where some of the guys on scene are like, no, we can go get it, and some are saying defensive, imagine a Mayday situation with a down firefighter 3 months from now. That's going to be in a similar situation. So you have a place that's on fire, and sure, in this scenario, you've confirmed there's nobody inside, but there's still property in there that's
somebody's stuff.
Yeah, you don't know if they got their family heirlooms in this one room or whatever, but what if it was a fireman down in one of those rooms? So I feel like that's a perfect opportunity to, for lack of a better term, still be aggressive to keep those skills sharp. There's got to be a flowery way to say that, but
it's a great learning opportunity for sure. If nothing else, it gives your personnel the ability to, as safely as possible, test their limits. You say you can go get it. Okay, well,
show me.
Do it as safely as you absolutely possibly can. There's zero room for error here, but until you give me a reason to disagree, then hey,
building that trust.
Let's go. All right.
Yeah. Another really good reason is mental health.
Right.
So if you have been provided an opportunity to get a stop on a fire that you didn't think you could stop, more times than we do, like you don't get that many. We don't burn as much.
Right.
Depends on where you are in the country, but there's just not as many fires as there used to be. So if you can capitalize on those every time there's a chance to, and again, you're saying it as safely as possible, but still make an attempt.
Right.
Man, that balances out so many negatives, bad medical calls.
There's no happier place on the planet than a firehouse after a good fire. Yeah. No better place.
Yeah.
morale's through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can hate the person next to you. They could have almost got you killed, and for a short amount of time, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Washing
Yeah.
hose, rolling hose, whatever.
That's it.
Happy times.
Everybody's big smiles, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's for sure. How can some of the decisions that we make, those processes that we go through, how can they affect our everyday life? The 99%.
There's general rules that I try to follow in making
I
a
know there
decision.
is. I'm gonna get them out of you one way or another.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people are similar, but my mood affects my decision making. The moment that I acknowledged that and started to realize, like, if I'm off, if I'm having an off day for whatever reason, then I know I need to add a little weight to the take a breath, consider everything first. And then other days, I'm vibing. Everything's going good, and I can trust my first instinct. It's remarkable how much your mood through the course of a week can float and change. And,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As long as you're coherent to that and can understand it, it makes sense.
That's it.
Total sense. What would you say, if you could put a percentage on it, how many decisions are made based off of what you're talking about, emotion? Just
in a common day?
Yeah, just emotional-based decisions, just blah. Good or bad. Like I said, I mean, they could be good or bad. Most of the time are good ones who don't really, they kind of get swept under the rug because we're negative.
I think
people.
every day you can bank on 10 decisions that could potentially lead to regret. Like there's little decisions all day long.
Oh, yeah.
Like a customer interaction, on scene, canceling units versus not canceling. There's all kinds of fun decisions that get made. And I would say there's 10 a day are going to be important enough that if you just make a decision, oh my gosh, like based in anger, that's not good.
It's probably a bad one.
Yeah.
Odds are it'll be a bad one.
Yep. I try so hard to stay focused on customer. What's good for the person that's needing the help, even if that decision means I have to admit that my plan A wasn't working, or I have to call back the rescue that I just canceled. Things like that. Like you can do a size up and the rescue can clear, and then find some more information like, oh no. So instead of just overcoming with effort and sacrificing customer care,
Embarrassment saving face.
yeah, bro, y'all get on back on the way.
Yeah.
Some new information. That's just an example. But yeah, I bet there's 10 a day.
It's probably a fair number.
Mm-hmm. It might be more, but I bet in a on shift, 10 a day could lead to regret.
I would say that mine's probably more than 10 a day.
Mm.
I would. I just haven't reached an age of wisdom yet where
I get it.
I can quite step back like I should. I practice and I try, but yeah, I make a lot of emotional decisions. Thank goodness most of them work out for the better because I try to keep my emotional state very chipper, very happy. So most of them are made out of a good place.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
When you presented with a decision that triggers anger or triggers maybe anxiety or madness or some anger-based emotion, are there physical things that happen, or is it all a mental game? Like, how do you know what you're like? Oh shit, this is one of those where I'm about to make a bad decision because I'm pissed.
Most of the time, it's after I've reacted. Yeah, and it's just an overwhelming feeling of, damn, that was dumb, or an almost immediate feeling of regret of some sort. And sometimes you can come back from that, and sometimes you can't, or it's, damn, I shouldn't have said that, or something like that. I have found myself getting a little bit better about that, kind of deflecting whatever it is for, just a small amount of time, allowing myself to take at least one breath. But definitely physical and mental for me. Yeah.
Do you get that really strong change in heartbeat?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like suddenly it's
Sure.
It's not necessarily faster. It's just
Right.
these deep thumps.
It's almost like the feeling of, I don't know, maybe a millisecond or a couple seconds after something scared the hell out of you, but that kind of super high sense of awareness and all that kind of stuff. I guess I would can kind of compare it to that.
Mm-hmm.
But but definitely on the mental side, after the fight or flight little cortisol dump, adrenaline dump is kind of wearing off, it's like, oh God.
Yeah. I get that. The heavy hit and then some sort of focus with my eyes. It's like whatever has my attention and shifted to anger, I square up and then I know in my brain, like, all right, now we're pissed off. Let's figure out how to manage this.
Right.
So I had a situation recently. I had a conversation that I knew was going to be potentially tough. So I had my whole argument figured out in my head exactly how it was going to go. And then within the first 3 or 4 back and forths, I realized that the weight of the outcome of this interaction wasn't worth all of that prepared arguing that I was about to do. So I was like, nah, we're not going to do this. So, and I felt that pound and that focus. And I'm like, nah, now's not the right time. For whatever reason, now it's not the right time.
It's amazing how tone and body language and everything else can take the nicest thing and make it sound so bad. Or good intentions can be ridiculously swayed just on delivery. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times that's subconscious based off the feelings that you're talking about. That shift and all that kind of stuff makes your tone different, makes everything different. Mm-hmm. And your argument, I'm sure, was planned out perfectly and was very well calculated. But, that trigger moment can change things. Mm-hmm. Same words that you have rehearsed in your head could be said different, and then that could be interpreted different. So,
yeah. You ever walk by somebody and not recognize them or just not know that they were there, and they perceive it as you snubbed them or you were mad, and they ask you about it later, and you're like, "Bro, I never saw you." Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's something about that. You're just going about your life. Like if you were going to ignore somebody, a true ignoring somebody apparently is offensive.
I guess.
Yeah, because
that brings up myself and my wife had a conversation the other day. I forget even how we got on the subject, but she said that we have a common friend between us, one that she grew up with that's just kind of my friend now. Was a local farmer, that kind of stuff. Our kids play together, that sort of thing. She was telling me about a situation where just something that I had said that he took completely opposite and was like floored about it, like legit mad.
Yeah.
And that was not even close to close. Yes, absolutely. And I don't even know if it was the way I said it. It was right around the time, I think might have been discussing something about her dad's funeral arrangements or something like that. I think she said that he had asked me, what's the plan for the funeral or something like that. And I said, I don't really know. Last I heard, it was going to be private. And then he took that as...
You're not invited.
That you're not invited. Yeah, that's not at all what I meant.
Yeah.
Nor did I even really know. But that was just the last information that I had heard.
Yeah.
But he took that really rough.
Yeah, something innocent was perceived as not. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it more gripes me that it went on so long, and I mean, that I never had any clue. I don't ever want to wrong anybody on purpose if I can help it. Some people, I want to, but
right.
This situation was not one of those.
That goes back to establishing that relationship before you ever have a conflict. And that way, I'm sure once you guys talked about it,
we still haven't talked about it. I mean, this is just the other day, and I hadn't seen him since. Yeah, I don't even know. Should I bring it up? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, that's really funny.
Yeah, like I said, it's been, that was just a few days ago that me and Holly had that conversation. Kind of ironic that we're talking about it now. Mm-hmm. But no, I mean, I haven't seen him since, and should I bring it up?
Dude, I mean, in my opinion,
you're talking about something that happened quite a long time ago, almost a year now. So.
Yeah. Talking about decision making.
Yeah.
I think everybody should make it a decision. If there's something that's crossed and it causes any sort of stress, clear that shit up with whoever.
And get it over with. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I'll be sure to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think maybe with that, it'll maybe help kind of lay some pavers for intent in the future.
Yeah.
Whereas if you don't clear it up, you always leave room for still that person's interpretation of what you're saying versus the intent behind it.
Yeah. Assumptions can get wild.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, that scene size up, that realm of our whole job, those decisions, I think it's like a muscle thing. Like you got to practice it. I treat medical calls. I'll look at them, and then because you can't control what the next medical call is, right?
Right.
So wind direction, the trees, power lines, all that stuff. I go ahead and assume this place has got a room of contents, or I'll pre-decide that there's going to be a fire on the Delta side. And then when I show up, I imagine the fire's on that side. What am I going to do with those exposures or those situations? And I think it helps sharpen the real deal.
I think so too. It'll probably take off some of the pressure when the real deal arrives. It's real world training, taking an opportunity, the elimination of decisions that are already predetermined. I like that.
Yeah.
It's a good theory.
Another place that decision making comes in and it gets real heavy fast is personnel conflicts.
Personnel conflicts when it comes to somebody that you actually get along with, like something good, but they messed up. Now you have to be Mr. Accountability and do the right thing. I mean, geez, there's all kinds of things that have to be evaluated in that before that hammer can drop, that decision can be made.
Yeah, it's nice to start out with, hey, we're all going to end up getting along. We're going to have birthday parties together, stuff like that. But the fireground's priority. So
I get it.
Yeah, if that's kind of cleared out in the beginning, then they want you to correct,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
What if it's not fireground related?
Ah, shit, son. Different podcast.
Oh, God. I wasn't prepared for that one.
No, I'm with you.
It's still based on decisions.
I know. Yeah. My first year of getting promoted, I had a few default rules because I knew that I was fresh. I knew I didn't want to make the same common, typical new officer mistakes. So almost any decision that I felt like was one of those potential regret decisions, I cheated. And what would this person do? What would this person do? And that's what carried me through that first year, was using those experiences where I've seen others, or just knowing other officers and how they would respond. And I would lean heavy on that. And then as that year went on, I would start to inject what I would do. And then one day I just realized I wasn't doing it anymore. It was just my decision.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you still weigh on the advice from other people?
Certainly.
When it comes to making a maybe a bigger or tougher decision?
I do. The weight of the decision, I guess the weight and the category makes me choose. Like I have a list of people that I definitely wouldn't ask about this particular problem.
Sure. Sure.
So I keep those knocked out. And there's a few people out there that are far younger than me.
Right.
And different walks of life, but I would ask their opinion.
Sure.
On a problem, because of those relationships that get built, and you talk to somebody like, this dude's got it figured out in this category.
Wise beyond his years.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have several of those. They're just with it, and obviously that can be whatever the decision is specific. But yeah, I have a handful that it doesn't really matter what it is. It can be buying a car. It can be whether or not to hang my child. Obviously, that's a little dramatic, but you know what I mean.
That picture you sent me that time of a little man in the field with the corn cobs.
Right.
Remember he was just picking them up and dumping them back out. God,
That
was so funny.
That actually came from the advice of a guy that I very much look up to, my buddy Steve Snyder. He was calling me about something about the same time all that was going on, and I told him about the situation that was going on with my son, and I said, dude, I've whipped him, I've grounded him, I've done everything, and it's a reoccurring problem. He said, well, my dad, when I messed up, always made me do manual labor. You should try that. So to the cornfield we went. Yeah. Fill up this bucket with cut corn stalks. Let me see it. Dump it out and fill it up again. And we did it for a long time. And then I got to watch this learning process happen. And when it clicked and it became something that he understood, it was magic.
That's really cool.
And I wonder how many times that happens with me, like still happens to this day, where people, maybe not so dramatic as picking up corn stalks, but it's just a reoccurring lesson, and then they step back and they just like, all right, he got it. Or, you know, I'm sure it still happens. I hope it does anyway. I'm a hard head.
Yeah. So. The worst thing for decision making is anger, in my opinion.
Yeah, attaching emotion to it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There's another emotion that I'm trying to figure out what word to put on it, put on a fireground. Whatever that emotion is that makes you feel like you need to rush. If you have a name for it, label it. But rushing for the sake of rushing. I
guess in a way it's panic, really. I mean, it's a form of panic. You feel this heightened sense of urgency to do this, so you're kind of panicking, I guess. There's probably a much better word, but it just...
My favorite thing to tell newer people, either new riding the seat or just new in the fire service, when you pull up to a house that's on fire, it's just a house. 20 minutes ago, there were people in there having dinner, taking a bath, doing whatever, and now there happens to be a fire inside of it. It didn't change the building other than there's fire in it now. You know, there's obviously like how long it's been burning, stuff like that, but for the most part, it's just there's fire in the room now. It didn't make it evil. It didn't make it this thing to freak out over. It's just the best day of your life. Now go put the fire out.
I get it. Yeah. Do you think that goes away with time?
Mm-hmm. I do.
There's if you'll talk to any seasoned military officer, like special forces, direct action like person, not somebody who sits in Washington while shit's going down in Afghanistan, but like somebody, a boots on the ground, step away from a stand-up dude. They'll tell you that, their number one thing is, don't be in a rush to die. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
You should, there's a lot of things that need to take place, and it's more than just going in a burning building and putting red stuff or putting water on the red stuff. Mm-hmm. There's more to it than that. Sometimes it is just that easy.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just kicking the door in and killing bad guys. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
So, Ben Bob made a good point here. He said a good point to make is that our decisions don't only just affect the immediate future, but also the far out future of our careers and our personal lives. That could be fireground, personnel, or personal decisions. Even bad decisions can have a positive effect on us.
Yeah, all true. He's one of my
sounding boards.
Yeah. What would Ben Bob do?
Yeah. I don't disagree with that a bit.
I've asked myself that question countless times.
John, we talked about that. Your question. He was asking about. He asked about first two companies, officers making tactical decisions and being a little bit more aggressive, and then a chief arriving and assuming command and kind of coming off the gas pedal a little bit. Mm-hmm. We talked about that a little bit earlier. I talked about that with somebody not too terribly long ago in pretty much detail. I think it was just kind of one of those truck hood conversations, where you just sit down and talk about it. We discussed that a little bit earlier. We have to understand as aggressive, boots on the ground guys that when our chiefs get there and stuff like that, they're looking at things far different than we are.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at, that's a fire. I like that. I have water and a means. I like that. It seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But our chiefs look at it far different. They have that. It's just like the military guys that I was using as a reference there. They look at things a little bit different than we do. So what you're asking in your question, have I ever experienced that? Yes. What seems to be all too often, and it doesn't matter if I disagree with it or agree it. He's still my chief.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do what he says. I'm lucky enough that if I look my commanding officer in the face and say, you know, I got a handful of guys, I think we can get in there and get after it. He's probably gonna be like, yeah, don't make me do paperwork.
Yeah. Right.
And that's going to be about the end of it.
Yeah. Earning trust.
Exactly.
That's where you cash that check.
I believe it.
Mm-hmm. There's an intangible thing about that, like being the first arriving and then your chief arriving on scene. The distance, like when you're in the firehouse with the battalion, you don't have any time on scene. Yeah, he's there on your heels for the most part. He could be away, but, you know, then if you're at the further out firehouses, you get a little more time on scene. So that's one of those intangibles you can't really play on that, but you can take advantage of it or learn how to establish that relationship and try not to get pulled.
given the situation that you were presented with when you got there could rapidly change in the 5 or 10 minutes that happens when you get there. Yeah. And quite honestly, just giving you for an example, if you're at the far end, just say you're at the far north end of your district, I mean, there's a lot of time.
Yeah, it's going to be a minute. It should look different from the outside when they get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
hopefully better, but
hopefully
might look worse.
That's right. It depends. Yeah. If it's a giant structure, or, you know, a huge house or whatever it may be, situation could look wonderful where you're at right then. But yeah, there's a lot of unknowns in that.
Mm-hmm.
These are good comments and good questions. I enjoy this.
That chief arriving on scene, we see the house and the potential victims inside. They see the house and the potential Mayday situations inside. You know, so it doesn't make what they're doing right or wrong. It just they're thinking about it, like you said. They see it differently than we see it.
Sure. I mean, I think I'm invincible.
I know I am.
Yeah. I mean, if there's a house on fire, I think I'm invincible. And there's nothing that's going to stop me from doing what I need to do. Whether it's truck work, whether it's put the fire out, I feel invincible. Mm-hmm. My battalion chief does not see it that way.
Yeah.
He sees me as a ball of turnout gear with meat chassis underneath, and that's
meat chassis. I like it.
And that's about it.
Yeah. That's where the value of earning trust, every chance you get it, comes in. Yeah.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. I talked about emotion playing a role.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be anger in like away from the firehouse decisions. Like buying a car, you know.
Right.
You see
that's an angry moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I have made the practice of, I used to do this, which was really cool, and I've quit doing it, and I probably should get back to it. On a test drive, I would wash the car before I would make a deal on buying it. Like full wash it. Yeah, like if I had gotten close enough, I was like, I'm going to make an offer on this car. I'd take it home and wash it.
Why?
Time.
Okay.
Yeah, get a good look at it, and it takes time to go all over it. And then the whole time I'm considering, you know, is this thing useful to me? Do I just like it because it's new? You know, and yeah, don't ever just pull right in, look at one, and then just grab it.
That's that impulse or that emotional purchase.
Yeah, it's not a Snickers bar.
So you're telling me I should take my Snickers bars home and wash them first before I eat them?
Wash that Snickers bar real good first.
No, that's wise. It's kind of like writing the bad email or the bad text message and then delete it. and then
Bro,
do it again,
I've written a lot of emails.
and delete it,
Yeah.
and then do it again, and delete it. Yeah,
Yeah, and text messages.
sure.
Yeah, I sent Ethan a text message recently that I did not send to the intended recipient. I was like, bro, I had to send this somewhere. So here.
It was already here. My finger was hovering over the
Yeah.
button.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, that was a good one. I was glad I didn't. And later, I was so glad I didn't send it.
Yeah, a lot of times the repercussions of that probably aren't worth that great feeling you have when you hit the send button.
Yeah. I wish there was a way that we could just figure out, like, oh, if I do this, this, and this, I'll never get mad. I get mad all the time.
It's a human emotion, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to get rid of it.
I know. Yep. Sometimes I feel like I must not be doing something right, or I feel a sense of not failure, but somewhere in that category. Like if I'm getting mad at stuff on a daily basis, what the hell's going on? And what am I doing wrong? And then sometimes it's out of your control. Shit happens.
It does, absolutely.
Yeah.
Then all you can control is your reaction, brother.
That's right.
Do you think it's possible to overthink? I'm not talking about you specifically, but just in general, is overthinking a thing?
Yeah. You ever
A
heard
decision
paralysis by analysis?
I have. It doesn't register with me, but
Yeah.
because it's never been a thing. But yeah,
Yeah. I saw in the comments somebody said trust your gut.
right.
And there's a lot to that. You can go too far, and just Yosemite Sam, shooting from the hip, trusting your
Sure.
gut. And then you can try to improve by thinking something through. And then you think it through so often or so long that the house is burned all the way down and you hadn't pulled the first line.
Where the focus goes away from whatever it is and you're off somewhere else now.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Decision making. There's so much to it.
There is. It seems to be kind of wrapped up all in a few basic principles, really. It's not a...
Don't be emotional.
Yeah, I don't say too much away from the mic. Might
Yeah.
miss some things. The folks on the live stream can hear it, obviously. But I think if you can find a solid vetting plan, just a rigid soundboard, it doesn't matter how quick or how slow your decisions need to be made. If you just have a simple set of guidelines that you can access so fast and just kind of spin them through and see what comes out the other end.
You know what my dad's rule is that sounds just like what you're trying to describe?
I'll do. I want to hear it.
I'll wait for you to come over.
Please do.
Yeah.
Okay. Give this a spin.
Yeah, we're about to have RB Hunt 101.
Coming as fast as I can.
Yeah, he asked me on a pretty regular basis when I have a decision I'm trying to make or something I'm spitballing with him.
I can't wait.
Yeah, it's super easy and it'll make a lot of sense once you hear it. But he says, in 1 year, what will you wish you had done?
I hear you say that a lot.
Yeah, that one will get you through. On the other side of that, people make decisions all the time that I agree with or I don't agree with. And I'm dancing on both sides of this. I'll try to keep it clear. For me, and I have a decision-making process, and I follow these rules, and I try to live my life the way that I'm supposed to. I try to do all the right things. And then somebody from across the street is just watching. So you end up letting perceptions of others affect decisions sometimes.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you got to be careful about that because there's the person that is downing your decision or giving you a hard time about something. If you wouldn't tell them all the details around it, then you shouldn't worry about what they think about it. So,
I agree.
Yeah. That's probably been one of the biggest frustrations that I've experienced with decision making is somebody having a negative opinion of you because of a decision you made, and they're like, you shouldn't have done that, or this was right or wrong or whatever. If they didn't have all the information, sorry, cuz you can't make that judgment. So I only say that to remind myself not to judge others on decisions and remind everybody else, if you don't know every single thing, it's pretty impossible to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go easy on people.
Yeah, I would say it's basically armchair quarterbacking, the decisions that everybody else makes.
Yeah. Sometimes your friends.
Yeah, definitely sometimes your friends.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't think of a better way or anything to add on top of what you said. If you don't know, then how could you know?
Yeah.
If you don't know all the stuff surrounding it, how could you possibly judge somebody or say it was a bad decision or a good decision or whatever when you don't have any details? It makes total sense. I'm guilty of it.
Yeah, it happens. I'm sure I'm guilty of it.
Yeah.
I can't think of a specific right now, but I know I've done it.
Sure.
I've done it.
Sure.
Yeah. That 1 year rule, though, that'll get you through.
That's wise.
Mm-hmm.
You ask me that a lot.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. How about something that needs to be decided a little more
urgently?
Yeah, a little more urgently. Is there anything you can think of, some good advice?
For me, I ask myself, is this going to hurt? Is it going to hurt me? Is it going to hurt somebody else?
Sure.
That's one of those things, like the word hurt can be financial. It could be emotional, physical.
That's that risk and reward thing.
Mm-hmm.
You can take whatever out of this box and put it in that box and, yourself financially. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And there's value. Like you can make a decision to donate to somebody that, like a GoFundMe or something. And that hurt is, this is going to hurt me financially, but it has the potential to help this person. And you can bounce that around back and forth. And that's another one of those situations where you keep everybody else out of it. Like if you give to a GoFundMe, just give to the GoFundMe.
Yeah, there's no need to post it anywhere.
Right. Yeah. Yep. I think you can make better decisions with stuff like that if you just keep it in your head.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
No need to stroke that ego.
That's right.
What about decisions made based off of consequences? Have you ever done that?
Yeah, like they usually sound more like if I don't do this.
That's right. If I don't do this or I do this, what's going to be the consequence?
Mm-hmm.
I do this every time I look at my wife's to-do list.
Honeydew.
Yeah,
every time. Yeah.
What's going to be the consequence if I don't do this?
Yeah. How you ask yourself the question is probably an indication of what type of situation you've got yourself into.
Sure.
Yeah. Because if you're not even close to saying, what will this look like in a year? Then it's either an immediate, like, bro, this is not a year later thing. This is a 6 minutes from now thing.
Right.
And those exist.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, how you ask yourself, probably a good indication. Man, those quick ones.
There's doozies, and you're always going to have the people, just like you said, that are going to, they're going to be, they've had time to think about it. You didn't at the time.
You know what's a good rule, and we haven't even touched on this, but you learn it in grade school or from your parents as soon as you can walk, right versus wrong.
Sure.
Yeah. So if it's one of those quick ones, do the right thing. That shit might hurt, but just do the right thing.
1 year, it'll make a difference.
In 1 year, it might make a difference.
That's right.
Or in 1 year, it might be over, and
that's right.
You won't even remember this stuff, but right versus wrong.
I try to, because I try to, as I'm getting older, I'm starting to evaluate. That's why I even wanted to talk about this tonight, was decision making. It seems like an off-the-wall topic that, and topics is not something me and you really do, but I value your opinion on it, and I'm learning. One of the challenges that I give myself with my children is, rather than, as we're working out this right and wrong thing here, whether it be based off of morals or whatever it may be, but an explanation of why. It's just not because I said so. It's an explanation of why. So they start to kind of comprehend what goes on up here as an adult. Because I'm not trying to raise good kids. I'm trying to raise responsible adults.
Mm-hmm.
So just that explanation of why, and it seems to work a little bit better. You know, when somebody tells you no, what's your first reaction?
Yeah. Well, why no?
Or why no? Or psh, all right, watch.
Yeah, watch me.
Watch. Or you can't do that. I mean, your first emotional response to that is, I can watch. Or, you know, but the explanation of it, that seems to work much better. Even with my 3-year-old, whose little brain is an amazing thing.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, just an explanation of why you can't eat, you know, a bag of M&Ms before you go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's going to affect your sleep and everything else.
Affect my sleep.
Yeah. See, this is a big problem all the way around. 1 year from now, this is going to affect not only you but me. So, yeah.
Yep. You can't eat those M&Ms because your mom will kill me.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just not take that from my example and using my children. Do you think as leaders in a department or people in a leadership position that could be a valuable tool for them to use? It's kind of the explanation of the motives, the reason for the decision. If you got to make a decision that you know the vast majority of the people under you, like for us, for example, you know, that might be one person under me, under you, that's 2. Mm-hmm. But they're not gonna like it. I mean, let's face it, we're humans. We don't like change. We're, you know, very repetitive creatures. Mm-hmm. So if you're making a decision that's going to alter that repetitive nature, you're going to catch friction. Mm-hmm. Do you believe in an explanation of, you know, why we're doing this? A little bit of...
I do 2 things. I present it as hey, this is one of those things. You're not going to like it. I don't like that we have to do it or that we're having to be here, but here we are, and let's just get it done. So the building the relationships make hard conversations a lot easier. I had a really, really, really hard conversation a while back, and it was awkward and terrible, but I presented it as that, and then we were able to just discuss the issue, and it
kind of got the emotions out in the air.
Yeah.
To where it wasn't an elephant anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be mad. I'm already mad. Or, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Or we didn't think the day was going to go this route, but it is now. Let's go knock it out. Yeah. Attitude is everything.
I think that's that little explanation. I can't get this word right now.
Hammer.
Yeah, I need a bigger hammer. I think that little explanation when you're talking about things that are going to affect other people, for the most part, I believe that explanation is extremely important. Mm-hmm. It's a big thing with corporations. When you're talking about an organizational change, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it will help out the resistance.
The resistance is inevitable. Mm-hmm. You're going to get it. It's unavoidable. But you can do things to help with that, and that's based off of a decision that you're making. And as the effects and the weight of your decision that you've made trickles down through all the other people, if they're not on board with why you made that decision or how, or, you know, what's going on in your head, how can you ever expect them to be on board with it? Yeah. I've seen it in our department itself. Mm-hmm. When we switched shifts, when we went from 24/48s to 24/72s, which is what we're on now, we used to work 24/48s. This is probably before your time.
Right before y'all switched as I got on the rig.
Yeah. Dude, some people loved it and some people hated it. Mm-hmm. I was one that hated it. It's all I had ever known, for one thing. But I was like, what do you mean? This don't make any sense. A 4-day break, I like that part. But what do you mean I got to work every other day for 6 days, 7 days? What are you talking about? Yeah. I like the fact that I could take off one 24-hour shift and be off, what's that, 6 days? Mm-hmm. Just like that, and be done. Well, mathematically, turns out, even with the other shift, you can do that. Yeah. So, or 4 days. It might have been a little more. But it worked out. But it was a problem for us.
Yeah.
And the only explanation that I can remember, that I can recall, there may have been more in floating around in emails or whatever it is, but is that's because that's what most of the country does.
Oh, great. That's funny. Do you remember that training that got put out? That was, I think they rolled it out with the passive aggressive stuff, and they taught you the response of okay, great. So if you get some information that you're like, this is complete bull, like,
Right.
I'm not accepting that, then you just say, okay, great.
That's your default response to everything?
That's your default. Yeah, okay, great. So your supervisor tells you to do something you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah. I loved it. I thought it was the most passive-aggressive thing you could teach me to say.
Probably.
And it was ironic to me that it came out in passive-aggressive training. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Trying to think of what that saying was. Drew said it the other night. My dad said it before. Permanent solution to a temporary problem. So decision-making on the dark end of the scale, mental health stuff.
Sure.
So tough times, life, divorce, bankruptcy, foreclosure, all those bad calls, whatever. There's those decisions, like how do I move forward? What am I going to do now? Like you start asking those deep questions that have answers that are too heavy to just walk around with.
Sure.
Those are times that you reach out and you ask a brother at work, your sister, whoever.
Right.
But call somebody. All decisions don't have to be in-house, and like a financial advisor exists for a reason.
Sure.
There's professionals out there that have jobs because they're supposed to have jobs. So if you try to do everything yourself, like a plumbing problem, you're not just going to go sawing apart pipes and sticking things together. Call a plumber. So in those situations, those are decisions that everything feels permanent at the time, but they're not. So
it's just so embarrassing.
I know. Hey, I've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so embarrassing. A plumber, even as a man, to call a plumber is like, as soon as he gets there, he's judging me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're like, I still have duct tape. I can fix this.
Yeah. He's like, dude, you have to attach the chain back to the handle on the toilet. You got it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Okay, great.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's.
What do you think about that decision? It's getting too common that guys are making decisions that are permanent solutions. And it's easy to say that it's catchy, like permanent solution to a temporary problem. These problems don't feel temporary in the moment.
No, that's I'm trying to think of a more elegant way to put it, but that's dumb for us to think that that's easy. That's ignorant is what it is.
Yeah,
it's ignorant for somebody to sit back and say that, that was that's a mini problem. Even I'll use my kids again, but their worst day to me could be so minute and so little. Like who cares that you broke or lost your favorite pencil? But to them in that moment,
earth shattering.
That's it.
Yeah.
Nothing exists past that pencil. It makes no sense. Mm-hmm. So it's ignorant.
I get it, dude. Yeah. It's offensive in a way.
Yeah. And it's shameful. I feel like I've done that to people. I feel like it's, you'll come up to a situation, or they'll experience a situation that you've pushed to the side. It wasn't a problem for you, but so that's your past experience. Is that was easy for me. Man up.
Yeah.
I mean, just like you said, shit happens. What are you gonna do? Move on. Yeah, that's ignorant. And
Yeah. Maybe the takeaway is knowing that if somebody else is dealing with something and you're not the one in it, know that it's everything to them.
absolutely.
Yeah, it might not seem heavy to you, but it is to them. Sometimes just a nice comment.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's no magic little answer book that we can hand out, but I know that there were times that just a compliment or somebody saying something nice, a courteous act,
Sure.
like little stuff. It's like, oh, there is some good left in the world, you know. In that
Yeah.
time when you think it's all shit.
Yeah, I don't believe it's our job to judge somebody until we've walked a mile in their shoes. We don't have any idea. But if somebody's not portraying or not reaching out, how are we supposed to know? Some folks hide it so well.
Yeah, I just heard a saying. I can't remember who said it, but people don't pretend to be sad; they pretend to be happy.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll hear that saying all the time when you hear about somebody doing something bad to themselves, or something like that. But like, I can't believe it. You know, I can't believe it. Or, I had no idea, or they always look so happy. Or
Mm-hmm.
they always were so nice and so this and so that. And it's like, well, but how? I mean, how do we know?
Yeah. You know, one of the best relationship advices I got was people love and act the way that they want to be treated. So, you know.
Perception of love is how you receive love.
Yeah. Nice. You got your own book coming out, or?
I think I probably stole that from somewhere.
Right.
That was pretty good to pull it back, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's everybody. That's the... Oh, man. I don't want to change topics. That could be a good one day, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know I don't know how to... The weight of the decisions that a person can make when they're in that deep, dark place. Man, that's the $1 million question.
That is the $1 million question. I think one small place to help is building those relationships, like paying attention. You know your 3-question rule?
I do.
That's a good one.
I do.
Yep. You're not going to, if somebody really does need somebody to talk to or need help in some way, that person, you're not going to offend by asking them 3 times, are you okay? The person that doesn't have any problems and is just an asshole, that's the person that's going to be offended when you ask 3 times.
Sure.
So who cares?
Right.
Yeah. Piss that person off, but ask the 3 times and reach the person that does need it.
I agree. I'm trying to think of anything. It's tough, man. It's a tough thing to try to give advice to.
Mm-hmm.
Is, those decisions. I mean, you're basically just talking about life and death. So, I mean, you're talking about life and death decisions, and I guess everything that we said could have some form of weight, but, I mean, are you even comprehending that?
How about this? One of the things that is thought in those times is you feel like you're a burden on other people. So it's false.
Sure.
Like that's a false thing that we convince ourselves of in those moments. Is there a way to fix that from the other side? Or is there a way to share that message that's ridiculous? You're not a burden. Nobody's a burden on somebody.
No, I think it's going to go to the previous relationships that you had with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully hopefully the connection that you have with those people can help you understand that no matter what your circumstance is, no matter what the problem is, that's not a burden to somebody who really cares about you.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. I mean, none of that matters.
We've all seen the Facebook posts. Like, I'd much rather wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and talk to you on the phone than have to dress up and go to your funeral.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's some truth to that statement, but I don't know, past building the relationship on our, on the other side of it and working on our relationships, I don't know how you convey that message. To me, that's a little more interpersonal than a mass
Generic.
training, or you know what I'm saying? I reckon that would be, I guess that's our job.
Yeah.
Our job in the firehouse.
Right. Those decisions made on fire grounds, we were talking about that risk versus reward, and what if a Mayday happens 3 months later? So let's treat this house like there's a problem in there, and we still need to put the fire out. We should be doing that anyway. But if you need a reason, there's a good reason. That mental health component on totally unrelated cause, you could never know if that was something positive that happened on a fire scene that helped somebody that was otherwise everything else was going wrong. And then one fire scene runs right. And it's like, that made sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sometimes that's all you're looking for, is just something to seem logical.
Sure. I wish that I had the opportunity to flip the we had two pretty good calls. One being absolutely tragic and devastating, and one being the highest place you could possibly be. And I experienced both of those less than 7 days apart.
Mm-hmm.
The highest you can be in our career, saving a life from a burning building, is the pinnacle. I mean, it gets no higher than that. I mean, that's what I started this job to do.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. There's no higher reward.
Mm-hmm.
But then the total opposite end of that, less than 7 days later, I wish I could have flipped them.
But got the bad one out of the way.
That's right. Just mirroring off what you're saying. You don't know what a simple decision to you might seem a huge win for somebody else, and what it does for their psychological state and their emotional state, and even, their morale. But yeah, why is it us as humans always find it so much easier to reflect on negative things than it is positive?
I don't know. That's a great question.
Why is it so much more memorable, the bad things versus the great things?
Yeah, it's like
you got to think
perfect.
Yeah. If you want to talk about bad experiences, I could probably fill this table up for them. But if you talk about good experiences, I might be able to fill that bowl up without really digging deep into, I'm talking about my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? Do the good things happen that often? We're accustomed to them?
Yeah, or maybe we don't.
Complacency, taking it for granted?
Yeah, that's it. We don't categorize them as something. The word devastating is strong, but we don't have something like that to put on the happy side.
Joy?
Yeah, but nobody ever got knocked down with joy.
Nope.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's not that strong word.
Sure.
Yeah, but that's a choice. You can choose to imprint those strong memories if you make it important.
I believe that's a healthy practice for us.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be part of this missing key with our whole mental part of our world now, is a little more gratitude and a little more thankfulness, instead of the expectation of and the sense of entitlement. Because it's culture-wide, it's nation, it's worldwide, but it bleeds into our service.
Trevor Alger would say, have an attitude of gratitude.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think there's power to that.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to be positive, trying to see the positive and the good in every situation versus automatically just defaulting to what's wrong with it. Maybe we should try to flip the list.
Good thought.
On debriefs, on everything. Let's flip the let's start this meeting with what did we do right, and not what was the bad parts. They'll inevitably come out. But let's at least set the atmosphere of gratitude and what we did good. So I think in the last critical incident debriefing that I just went through, there was some good things hit on, some good positive things, but the atmosphere was not the good things. And we need to find a way to change that.
Yeah.
There was some really, really, really good things, like I said, but they were categorized in a cereal bowl, and then the negative things filled up the kitchen. So,
yeah. You're right. There needs to be a flip, and that might be the key, like you said.
I don't know if it'll be the whole key, but, it might jiggle the lock.
Yeah. Even if we could just inch forward in multiple realms, just move that line a little bit.
I think so. We're going to crack this code one day.
That's right.
One day. Bro, this has been fun.
This has been fun. I like it.
I like it too.